now belongs to me. My X-Men.
Is it true that Marvel Studios is finally working on an X-Men movie? The talented Michael Leslie is in talks to write the script. So what can we expect? Michael Leslie is also known for writing adaptations of Shakespeare's plays. He worked on the 2015 movie Macbeth and is currently working on a new film adaptation of Hamlet. In 2016, Assassin's Creed featured Michael Fassbender, who also played Magneto in later X-Men films. Between X-Men 97 and the anticipation for Deadpool and Wolverine, Marvel Studios is noticing how eager Marvel fans are for more X-Men stories. It's not yet known if this MCU X-Men movie, which will likely be a reboot with new actors and separate from the Fox era, will come out before Secret Wars in 2027 if it sticks to that release date. It might also be a part of Marvel's next phase, a true mutant saga. We think what we all want is a mutant saga on the other side of Secret Wars. This new project is being commissioned with Michael Leslie to represent a clean slate reboot of the X-Men in the MCU. And this would be independent of any crossover events in the multiverse saga like Secret Wars. Lessons have been learned by Marvel Studios from looking back at the Fox X-Men franchise reboot should be approached. As X-Men 97 Season 1 came to an end, we realized it was largely a bastion operation. The Zero Tolerance storyline will continue into Season 2 mixed with a Magneto Fatal Attraction story, and it eventually gave us what we think could be the origin point of Onslaught. A second season is being set up that will center around Apocalypse assembling his 4 horsemen. Early in the season, it seemed like it was going to be a Mr. Sinister storyline. We got the Fire Raid Flesh Goblin Queen Mind prior story, which is a Mr. Sinister comic arc, but at the end of the season, it seemed like the producers of X-Men 97 were told to hold off on it. It was clear that Mr. Sinister was really there to serve Bastion, and he ends the season as a bit of a joke, literally running away on foot, which is the funniest way a villain can exit the frame. The writers of X-Men 97 were clear that despite the perils to the E is for Extinction event from the Grant Morrison's storyline in 2001 with the attack of Joshua by a wild sentinel, they were told not to use the villain Cassandra Nova in X-Men 97. Probably Marvel didn't want to step on the toes of Deadpool and Wolverine in the version of the character played by Emma Corrin. Fox did have a plan for the future of their X-Men franchise during those later films with a first-class cast beyond X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. This one showed up in traces in the background of the films like Logan and the New Mutants. But after the villain of Apocalypse, they wanted to focus on Mr. Sinister with John Hamm rumored to be considered for the role of Nathaniel Essex, who seemed to be the big bad in the shows, collecting mutant DNA from the 1980s onward. And this included overseeing various mutant experiments on young mutants through shell organizations. For example, Transon in the Logan film and Milbury House in the New Mutants film. But we should acknowledge that this sinister plan was being developed largely without Kevin Feige's input. While Feige did have a hand in the first 3 X-Men films produced in the original trilogy series, by the time of X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past, he was busy producing for Marvel Studios and was not always in the room or on the call for those planning meetings. So it's not guaranteed that Sinister is going to be the villain Kevin Feige picks up within the MCU, especially if he was okay with just dispensing the character's goofiness in X-Men 97. However, Kevin Feige clearly has a lot of respect for X-Men Days of Future Past as a kind of nexus point in the history of some of his multiversal characters. This includes House of M and the recent Powers of X storyline, which includes the Fall of the Power of X, Rise of the Power of X, and Reign of Power power of X. But they have to be careful because X-Men 97 has begun to adapt some of these X-Men storylines so well that they can't just do the same thing in the movies. They have to do it in a live-action cinematic way that general audiences can tap into, but it still needs to activate the X-Men die-hard fans the way X-Men 97 did. So they have to craft a story that is iconically X-Men, but it doesn't immediately get too far into the weeds with alternate realities, time travel, cosmic beings, and gothic horror right away. Maybe they could work their way up to that. So let's talk about 3 well-known X-Men comic adaptations that we really haven't seen fully adapted on film: House of M, Avengers vs. X-Men, and Kua. Starting with House of M, which leads into the M-Day event. This was around 2005. We thought WandaVision was going to be a House of M adaptation. Oh, how wrong we were. In House of M, it follows the Avengers' disassembled storyline in which Scarlet Witch alters reality to create a world where mutants are the dominant species. This could be a really interesting storyline to explore in the MCU, especially given Scarlet Witch's power level and the consequences it could have for the X-Men. They might do a version of Avengers vs. X-Men. Now, let's talk about Krakoa, which was mentioned a lot during our discussion about X-Men 97. It's one of the Marvel Comics' recent storylines involving the X-Men. Basically, Krakoa is a sentient island that Charles Xavier, Magneto, and Moira McTaggart set up as a sanctuary for mutants. However, Krakoa is not the same as Genosha. Krakoa is essentially a walking island that originated from the Charles Claremont run, and we've learned a lot about its backstory. Krakoa was believed to be awakened by atomic bomb testing in the Pacific Ocean in the 1940s, causing it to mutate into a living ecosystem, sort of like if Godzilla were an island. Later, we discovered a deeper backstory. Krakoa is actually part of an ancient entity called Akara. In ancient times, Akara was split apart using the Twilight Sword, resulting in 2 other forms conveniently spelled out of those letters, Krakoa and Arak. They use Krakoa as a sanctuary where only mutants are allowed to live. They have an operation there where they can resurrect mutants using a team called the Five: Professor X, Elixir, Eva Bell, Proteus, and Hope Summers. In Krakoa, mutants like Golden Balls and Proteus use their powers to resurrect other mutants. Proteus changes reality so that the Golden Ball acts like a uterus. Elixir starts the process of cellular regeneration to revive mutants, to restore mutants to their original states. If you think a movie is on the horizon, share your views with us in the comment section. Also, hit the like and subscribe button to watch such contents.